Today is December 11th, 2019, and today on my Daily Cap, we are going to discuss the Philadelphia 76ers taking care of business against the Denver Nuggets, a little bit of injury news with the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to discuss the Philadelphia Phillies making a big signing in free agency thus far this winter, and last but not least, we will cover some of the Champions League coverage that we had on Tuesday afternoon. But guys, I'm at Parcero Philly, uniting all through sports and culture here in the beautiful city of Philadelphia, and here my Daily Cap. Let's get this started, guys. Yeah! Alright guys, so if this is the first time you're tuning into my channel, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in. And if you're returning back, thank you as well for tuning back in. But guys, I could really use your guys' help. We are trying to grow at Parcero Philly here in the Philadelphia sports landscape, and I can only use your guys' help to grow here. Help me out by liking this video, subscribing to this channel, hitting the bell button for notifications, and sharing this video as well as this channel. But guys, lots to get to on this Wednesday episode. But first off, we gotta talk about the Philadelphia 76ers win last night as he faced off against the Denver Nuggets, and it would be a 97-92 victory, and it would not come easy at all. The Denver Nuggets, who we all know are a solid Western Conference team, came into the Wells Fargo Center, gave us everything that we could handle. But I really want to start off here, guys, talking about Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. Because, guys, quite frankly, these guys are not acting and not playing as if they are NBA superstars who are leaders of their team. These two players are our team. They are the future of our team. And yet, we still are not seeing quality leadership attributes from these two guys. Tonight in this game for Joel Embiid, solid game, 22 points, 10 boards, and 6 assists. It's a solid stat line for a good NBA center. Now, if you guys watched any of the TNT post-game coverage, you saw a roundtable, specifically Charles Barkley and Shaq, talk about Joel Embiid's performance, and it's pretty much the same thing I just said. It's a good performance. 22 points. It's nice. It's nice. But if Joel Embiid has shown us at times that he can be the best player in the NBA. And it's consistency is the issue with Joel Embiid, and quite frankly with Ben Simmons as well. But Shaq had a really good point, and it's a point that I've been really trying to nail on the head here. And that is, if you want to be great, you got to put up 30 points. You're playing against a good center in the NBA as well in Nikola Jokic. You got to obliterate him. You want to be the greatest NBA center in this game today? You got to beat up guys like Nikola Jokic. Now, Nikola had 15 points with 11 assists and 7 boards. If you were the Joel Embiid that we want you and we know you can be, you got to put Nikola down in the dirt, boy. And then there's Ben Simmons, who did not have a strong night here in this game. His stat line would finish with 7 points, 9 boards, and 7 assists. After a weekend of such great performances by Ben Simmons, we saw a guy step it up for this Philadelphia 76ers team. He even had a career-high 34 points last Saturday night. But this was not the Ben Simmons that we saw over the weekend. And again, the same thing with Joel Embiid. It's consistency, man. Consistency. This is a good Denver Nuggets team. You got to show up here. You got to be tough. He was just too soft on this night. And there was no showing of the jump shot at all as well. Guys, honestly, we will go as far as Joel and Ben Simmons take us in the playoffs. The fact that, back to that TNT segment, the fact that they don't believe that this team has no chance of winning the title, that has to show you something. That has to light a fire under your ass here, because not just speaking as a fan, but a guy who's watched this game of basketball for over a decade now, this is a good team. This is a team that can make the NBA Finals. This is a team that can win an NBA Finals in a year where no one really is going to run away with this thing this season. It's up to these two guys. Do you want this? Do you want to be legendary? Do you want your name in the record books? Do you want 50 years down the line? Joel Embiid, do you want to be talked about the same way we talk about Will Chamberlain 50 years down the line? It's up to you guys. But I was not too pleased with the performances of my two superstars on this night. But let's talk about some bright spots, guys, because there were bright spots in this victory here against the Nuggets, and we have to start with Matisse Thybulle, because Matisse is the reason why we won this game here against the Denver Nuggets. Wholeheartedly believe that. Our rookie had 13 points with 5 boards and an assist, but in the second half, he led the charge to the 22-6 run that would help us come back and beat the Denver Nuggets. At one point, we were up on the Denver Nuggets, and they would find a way to come back, and they were up by 5 points. And then Matisse Thybulle came in, the energy spark that we all needed on that Sixers team, and he created that run, and he was a factor here in this win here. And he is continuously giving you good performance after good performance for the Sixers here. Obviously, the question is going to be is, are we going to continue seeing these performances here for Matisse Thybulle? Because when you continue seeing this here, Brett Brown has no choice but to give him a serious role come playoff time for the Philadelphia 76ers. But obviously too early to start thinking about that. But man, Matisse Thybulle has to be putting a smile on you Sixer fans' faces. Al Horford did not start off in the best way here in this game. Defensively, he was a liability and really wasn't doing much for the Philadelphia 76ers. But in the second half, he turned it on, and it really looks similar to the Boston Celtics days for him, where he had a lot of games, especially against us, where he wouldn't start off hot, but he would end the game on a right note. And in this game here, he really ended on the right note, finishing the game with 11 points, 9 boards, and 2 assists. Now, and honestly, it raises a question for me: do we really need to see Joel and Horford out there at the same time on the court, especially when you're playing against teams who play a lot of small ball? Do we need to see these two guys together? I wouldn't be mad, seeing Al Horford come off the bench as the number 5. That's a pretty deadly lineup. If you got Horford coming off your bench, it's tough for teams to take a breath if you got Joel Embiid, for most of the first quarter, and then you're tired and you see Al Horford come out there, who's a solid number 5. It's just a question I raise. Obviously, I'm not opposed to playing those two together, and we really haven't seen, the starting 5 that we thought we would see all season long play together with Ben Simmons, Josh Richardson, Tobias Harris, Al Horford, and Joel Embiid all on the court at the same time. So that needs to happen for them to build some chemistry, to see if that lineup actually works. But it's just a thought there. All right, next up we got to talk about the leading scorer yet again, and that is Tobias Harris, because Toby had 20 points, 7 boards, and 4 assists. Another good performance by Tobias Harris. He would start off this game slow on defense. Will Barton was not just burning Tobias, he was burning the whole Sixers defense there. Will went off in this game. Will usually has a good game in Philadelphia. I don't know what it is. He's not even from the Philly area. He just somehow always turns up against the Sixers, and he turned up here with his 26 points, 7 boards, and 7 assists. But back to Tobias. Tobias, again, was our leading scorer here, and he just does everything for us, offensively. If it's on the transition play, he's running down the court with Ben Simmons or whoever has the ball in his hand. He slashes to the bucket. He will set up those jump shots for himself. Tobias does a little everything, and it honestly, back to the Ben and Joel point, with Ben and Joel really not taking this team by the horns, not really being the guy, the Mamba, right? Should we give Tobias the closing role? Tobias has been the consistent scorer thus far this season. And it raises the question, should we give the ball in his hands in the last couple minutes of games? Honestly, I think so. I think you got to see what you got with Tobias as the closer. Ben has proven to be the guy who wants to facilitate the ball. He wants to be the quarterback of this offense here. Joel, he's the center. He posts. It's tough to be the closer when you have the back to the net. So I think it's another question to be raised. But I think Tobias has to be your closer going down the line. All right, we did see the return of Josh Richardson. I was super ecstatic seeing Josh back. It's been a minute since he's been back with that nagging hamstring injury, but thank God he was back. Unfortunately, it would be a slow return back for Josh. He wasn't as dominant as we thought he would be, but that was expected to happen. You miss significant amount of time. It's tough to get back on the court and get back to that game speed. He had only He had 3 points and one rebound. The 3 points came from one 3-point shot that he shot in the second half. But not worried about Josh. I think he's just got to get back in the groove of things, and he will be back. He will be back in the next game. We'll see what he gives us in that next game, but it'll be a minute before we see that Josh Richardson we saw against the Miami Heat. All right, a note for the Denver Nuggets. They did play without Jamal Murray. He did suit up here. He would get hurt in the first quarter and would not return in this game. And that was a definite factor for the Sixers winning this game here, because Jamal Murray is one of the key offensive players for the Denver Nuggets, and that would really benefit us going down the line. One less guy you got to guard. All right, next up for the Philadelphia 76ers, guys, we're back on Thursday night against our heated rival, the Boston Celtics, and this is going to be a big test for us. The Boston Celtics, since that first game lost to us back in October when we beat them at the Wells Fargo Center, that was a different Boston Celtics team. Since then, they've gone on a serious run, and right now they're sitting in second place in the Eastern Conference. And Brad Stevens, people doubted Brad Stevens after the playoff collapse last season, but my man's picked up the pieces with this Boston Celtics team and has built a contender, quite frankly, here up in Beantown. So this will truly be a good test for the Philadelphia 76ers. What do we got against our heated rival, the Boston Celtics? We're going to be up there at the TD Garden. Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, like I mentioned, you guys, this is your time to step up. This is a rival here. This is an Eastern Conference team that's in your freaking spot. You want to be in fourth place or do you want to be in second place? You got to show up here against Boston here. Jaylen Brown had some choice words for you, Ben Simmons. He said you can't shoot. I know you're not going to want to shoot in Boston, but have a big performance. You can still have 20 points like you usually do with your quick transition game, driving to the basket. You know, Ben, shoot a 10-footer. It's just 10 feet. Just shoot a 10-footer. You know, I want Joel Embiid to absolutely destroy the Boston Celtics as well. I want 30 points from him. Give me 20 from you, Ben Simmons, and the rest of the guys do your work. Tobias, you've been carrying the workload for the Sixers team. You can have 20 points. Josh Richardson, we will see what we get. I will be happy if we get around 10 points from him. And Al Horford, you're back in Beantown. They're probably going to boo you. Show up here, buddy. Loco, a jugar acá in Boston. You guys know me. I hate Boston, so I'm super excited for Thursday night. Man, I really hope the Sixers show up here and put the beating on the Celtics. All right, guys. Real quick, it's a quick tidbit here. I want to touch upon the Philadelphia Eagles here because we had some serious injury news here after that huge New York Giants victory. Now, unfortunately, Alshon Jeffery will be out, possibly, more than likely, for the rest of the season. It was said at the game that he hurt his ankle. It was an ankle injury that he suffered. It's looking more now like it's an Achilles partial tear. Doug Peterson hasn't quite yet given the official word on the injury, just saying that it's significant. But with only 3 games left, and just seeing the way when an athlete has a non-contact injury, that's when you really have to worry. Those usually are the ones that are worse than ones that are on contact. His injury on Monday night was a non-contact injury. I'm expecting him to miss the rest of the week, the rest of the season, and that's going to be huge. Although Alshon hasn't been Alshon this season, it's a weapon. It's a guy who can actually catch the ball and who was very dominant in the NFL at one point in his career. So really, this injury really begs the question, what the hell are we going to do at the wide receiver position? That's really something to worry about with the Philadelphia Eagles. Against the Giants, we went in that game with only 3 active wide receivers, and Alshon was one of them. And now he's possibly not going to play for the rest of the season. Nelson Aguilar, we don't know if he's healthy enough to play this Sunday against the Washington Redskins. So what is going to happen with this wide receiving group? Doug Peterson's talked about saying, we've got plenty of guys in the practice squad. Doug, those are practice squad guys. You can't expect this Eagles team to continue to win with practice squad guys. Like, you got lucky with Greg Ward, but you're rolling the dice a little too hard there. I think I don't know what's quite frankly out there at the free agency market at this point in time, but I'm not feeling comfortable with going into this week with hopefully Nelson Aguilar. But if you don't have Nelson Aguilar, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, he left the game early against the Giants as well. You got Greg Ward. I guess you got to put Josh Perkins back out there at the receiving position. He did pretty solid there. But that really raises the question, what's going to happen with this receiving core? And really also, I've continuously said this, but I just don't understand the reasoning for releasing Jordan Matthews. Jordan, he He's no better. He's not that much better than the receivers you have on this team right now. And he was a great locker room guy. He had chemistry with Carson Wentz. Chemistry with Carson Wentz is better than throwing to an undrafted rookie free agent from 2017 that is still on your practice squad. Like, I just don't get the logic with the whole wide receiver position. Quite frankly, I don't get the logic with the wide receiver position in Eagles history because we've never really had a dominant wide receiver. But we will see what happens. I'll post up if I get some news on the wide receiving group, but Alshon Jeffery more likely out for the rest of the season. All right, guys, let's stay in Philly here because down at Citizens Bank, we had some news on our Philadelphia Phillies as we have made another big signing here in free agency. As the Philadelphia Phillies have signed former Yankee shortstop Didi Gregorius to a 1-year, close to $15 million deal, and this is honestly a great deal for both sides of the spectrum here. For Didi Gregorius, this is a guy who's coming off a not so hot season. He actually missed quite a bit of time. He only played about 90 games last season for the New York Yankees, and this is a prove-it deal for him. Prove that you still have a lot left in the tank. You're still a serviceable shortstop for a championship caliber team. And I definitely think that coming into the Phillies, I think Didi will more than likely play at the shortstop. He really can't play any other position other than shortstop, which begs the question, what's going to happen with Jean Segura? Jean was our shortstop last season, but, you know, he really didn't have the strongest season that we all thought he would have last year. So, you know, going into the Joe Girardi era for the Phillies, Jean Segura doesn't have a place set with this team here. Sure, he's been on the trading block, but after a season that Jean had, who the hell wants to trade for him? Quite frankly, I would not be mad. I'm not going to be mad at keeping Jean Segura. I think you can either slide him at second base or move him over to third base. The real question is going to be, you definitely need another position player. You're going to need to find another infielder who can play either second or third base, or you're going to have to find another outfielder, specifically a center fielder. It depends who the Phillies want to bring in, but if they bring in another infielder, that means Scott Kingery will more than likely move out to the outfield, probably the center field. If you bring in another outfielder, Scott Kingery will probably move back into the infield, either at second or third. So it's really going to wait to see what Clintack does with more moves in this winter offseason to determine where Scott Kingery will play next season. Obviously, this deal makes sense too because this is one of Joe Girardi's guys, and Didi actually played some of his best seasons under Joe Girardi. So, you know, he definitely, you know, that definitely had to be a factor for coming down to Philly. Us needing an infielder, Joe definitely is going to want to bring a couple of his guys to bring in the dugout to, you know, for them to set the standard of how Joe wants his dugout to be ran. That's going to be huge. And Didi is a power hitter, believe it or not. As a shortstop, Didi is a power hitter. He's got a nice left swing, and again, he's a lefty. We need some more lefty bats in our lineup, so that's going to be huge as well. The thing about Didi, though, what a lot of people don't realize is Didi had the tough task of trying to replace a franchise legend in Derek Jeter. He was the replacement at shortstop once Derek Jeter retired. And that's not easy shoes to fill, but Didi took that job and he replaced it to the best of his capability. And he did a solid job as a replacement for Derek Jeter. He's been a consistently solid shortstop defensively and offensively as well. So that's definitely something to consider. This man has confidence, and hopefully he can bring some confidence to some of the young players that we have in this dugout that could really use it. Now, I know some people are looking at this move and thinking, you know, thinking to themselves, is Didi on the downfall? He did suffer some serious injuries towards the end of his Yankee tenure, and he didn't finish the season out last year. It was one of his worst seasons. It was his worst season as a Yankee, quite frankly. And personally, I think that this is going to be the perfect rebirth for Didi. He's coming to Philadelphia. We all know the Philadelphia mentality. It's a blue-collar city. It's a hard-working city. You're going to be reunited with Joe Girardi. There's like such a fresh feeling down at Citizens Bank Park. You know, it's just such all the bad vibes with Gabe Kapler and Sean Rodriguez in that era is gone. There's a new vibes down in Citizens Bank Park. And hopefully Didi can add to that. But I love this signing, guys. I'm a huge fan of this signing. I still think there's a lot of work to be done with the Philadelphia Phillies. Like I said, they're going to need to find another infielder or an outfielder. They still need some more pitching, in my opinion, specifically in the bullpen. Dylan Betances is out there, former Yankee relief pitcher, so that's something to be thinking about as well with the Philadelphia Phillies. But good start so far to the Phillies offseason, signing Zach Wheeler and Didi Gregorius. I think these are two guys that will be able to contribute for the Phillies, and you haven't broken the bank, quite frankly. You didn't sign the ridiculous Garrett Cole or Steven Strasburg deal. We're still waiting to see what Anthony Rendon gets, but he's going to get a ridiculous contract as well. So, I'm so excited and happy to see what my Phillies are doing right now, because it's looking good right now down at Citizens Bank Park. All right, guys, last but not least, let's just touch upon and look back at some of these matches that we've seen in Champions League play over Tuesday nights, over Tuesday afternoon's day. So, to start things off, Chelsea beat Lille 2-1, punching their ticket to the next round of UCL, round of 16. And Frank Lampard's first season with Chelsea being in Champions League, he's able to take this team and move them on to the round of 16 in a not so easy group, might I add. And in this game against Lille, with their spot in the round of 16 not secured, those guys came out with energy. From the minute that whistle was blown, there was an intensity with this Chelsea team. They wanted to attack at will on this little team. They played really good. It would lead them to a 2-1 victory, and they will be on to the next round. Barca versus Inter was probably the match of the day on Tuesday, and Barca would prevail here without Lionel Messi and without Gerard Piqué, winning this match 2-1. And it was quite frankly a close match all match long for both sides of the pitch here. Barca obviously was without Lionel Messi, but Carlos Perez honestly stepped up big here for Barcelona, and he would add the first goal here for Barcelona. Inter, however, in the first half, their high press was really working well. They had Barcelona, making some mistakes throughout this game here, and were able to turn the ball over a couple of times. They just unfortunately couldn't capitalize on those opportunities that Barcelona was giving them, and it was tough for them to get the goal. But after that Carlos Perez goal in the second half, Lautaro Martinez was getting double team, was in trouble, and he was able to flick the ball off a little bit to Romelu Lukaku, and Lukaku would shoot a nice low ball. I think it got a little deflection from a Barcelona defender, but it found the right side of the net to draw this matchup for Inter Milan. And then in the 85th minute, 5 minutes after he was subbed on, Ansu Fati, who has been such a bright spot for this Barcelona team, he would find the game winner on a hard, this was not an easy shot outside the box. It was a nice low ball to the left side of the net. It was not an easy shot to get off. Skriniar should have defended it a little bit better, in my opinion. He didn't attack Ansu in the proper way, and Fati had a nice shot, and he would be the savior. It wasn't Messi. It was Ansu Fati, who's probably the future of Barcelona. He would save the day here for Barcelona, and Barca would walk out here with a nice victory, winning 2-1. And for Inter, they are now eliminated from Champions League. They will move on to Europa League, and like I said, Antonio Conte's bunch, your focus has to be on Scudetti. You're in first place right now in Serie A. Go get your trophy. Liverpool versus RB Salzburg. Liverpool would have to travel to Salzburg. It was a nice 2-0 victory for Salzburg. And Salzburg made it tough for at least 40 minutes for Liverpool. But in the second half, Liverpool found their spark. They found a little hole in Salzburg defense and were able to knock in 2 goals. The goals would be scored by Keita. And Mohamed Salah had probably the best goal in Champions League this season with his goal in the 57th minute in this match. Mohamed was able to get the goalie outside the box. He was running down the right flank of the pitch. He was running just right outside the right-hand side of the box. He was able to get the goalie out. He was able to just chip the cross in, and it would find the left side of the net. And it was an absolute beauty. You guys know I hate Liverpool, but that goal was ridiculous. It had to be the best goal in Champions League this season thus far. Whew. For Salzburg, Haaland, who's been such a goal threat, could not score on this Liverpool defense. He's going to be a talented striker in worldwide soccer at one point, but he's still very young. In my opinion, he's got to find a quality club in one of the top two leagues, whether it be La Liga or Premier League. But man, I don't know how Liverpool don't repeat this year. Honestly, they look in form. They quite frankly look in form. And for Salzburg, they will be relegated to Europa League. And our own Jesse March here in America, who is the manager for RB Salzburg, he's already calling it that they are going to win Europa League. So it's a big statement to make for Jesse March and his team here in RB Salzburg. There's still going to be some quality teams in Europa League this season, so I don't know. It's going to be tough for them to pull that off, but we'll see what happens. But Liverpool are on to the next round. Dortmund took care of business against Slavia Prague, winning that match 2-1. They would get a red card in this match, as Julian Weigl would get a red card in the 77th minute, but still they had enough what it took to take care of business against Slavia Prague. Lyon and Leipzig would end in a 2-2 draw, and then Benfica would eliminate my Zenit, winning the match 3-0, and Zenit would have a red card as well, and no round of 16 for Wilmar Barrios, which quite frankly sucks. I told you guys I want to see Wilmar in the round of 16 of Champions League, but it's not going to happen. But Valencia had to travel to Amsterdam to face off against Ajax. We all know Ajax, especially last season, the work that they did making all the way to the Champions League semifinals, and this season they were still a tough opponent in Champions League. Valencia went up there and took care of business and won that match on a Rodrigo goal, winning this match 1-0, eliminating Ajax and punching their own ticket to the round of 16. Bravo, Valencia. We'll love to see what they're going to do in the round of 16. All right, last but not least, we got to talk about this game that happened, because this led to the headline news in world soccer after the match, because Napoli beat Ghent 4-0, a convincing win, finally a win for Carlo Ancelotti in Napoli after 8 matches. But unfortunately, after this match, it was decided by the Napoli FO, specifically Aurelio De Laurentiis, to finally part ways with Carlo Ancelotti. Now, we don't know if for a fact he was sacked, or if Carlo decided to walk away, or if both sides agreed to mutually depart. But this sucks, guys. Quite frankly, this honestly sucks. Carlo Ancelotti, in my opinion, did not deserve the sacking here. What most people don't understand was Carlo had his players' backs from the jump. Even during this crazy season, in the bad form, he still believed in his players. He gave the players his belief and his trust. And when Aurelio De Laurentiis, made the decision to send these players off on that week-long training retreat, Carlo, he told him that it wasn't a good idea. He didn't think the players needed a training retreat. He stood up for his players. Unfortunately, there was just a run of bad play. I definitely think there was some resentment from the players to the ownership, with the players to the president, Aurelio De Laurentiis. And this is just such a sour ending to this relationship that started off so bright. At the beginning of the 2018-2019 season, Napoli Nation was so excited. We just got done one of the best eras in Napoli history, with Maurizio Sarri bringing the beautiful style of football to Napoli, getting 91 points in his last season, just missing out on Scudetti. And then, you bring in a legendary manager like Carlo Ancelotti, who's won in the 4 major leagues in the world, and it started off really good. And then I always say this about this Carlo Ancelotti Napoli club. It was the Liverpool match that eliminated them from Champions League round of 16 contention last season, right before the new year. That was a difference for this Napoli club. They did not play the same after that game. And man, it's more shocking too, because I did not expect Carlo Ancelotti to get the sacking right after having a good win. They beat Ghent 4-0, but it just seemed as if this move the writing was on the wall. It was going to happen either way after this match, but it made it harder, the fact that, Napoli looked so good against Genk. Now for Carlo Ancelotti, what's next for him? This is now a guy who flamed out at PSG, he flamed out at Bayern Munich, and now he flamed out at Napoli. This is 3 times now he's flamed out. Is he a guy who can still manage in some of the top teams in Europe? I think so, quite frankly. I saw some things with Napoli that, did honestly do good things with them. Transitioning from the Sarri to the Ancelotti team, Ancelotti did not want to change up much. He understood that Sarri ball did work for this team. They did switch up the formation. They went from the 4-3-3 with Sarri to a 4-4-2 with Ancelotti, and it was more so for the defensive shape that they moved to the 4-4-2, but they still were implementing the quick passing, the ticky-tack. It kind of evolved eventually, but he's still a good manager. There was rumor he would go to Everton, but Everton just announced that Duncan Ferguson will stay on for at least a couple more games, so that's out the book. But I think for Ancelotti, he's going to just take a seat right now. Wouldn't be mad if he came to MLS. Is it time for Ancelotti to come to MLS? I heard David Beckham's looking for a manager down there in Miami. Imagine Ancelotti in South Beach coaching up some of the best young talent we have here in the MLS. But I'll definitely keep an eye on that. But, Ancelotti, grazie mille. Bravo a te. He did a great job. He still finished his Napoli tenure with a winning record. So you can't take that away from him. Now, to replace Carlo Ancelotti, Aurelio De Laurentiis is bringing Rino Gattuso. Gattuso will be taking over the reins for Napoli, and tactically it doesn't make sense. Gattuso hasn't really shown to me he's a tactical genius, but what he brings is hard work. He's going to bring that hard-working mentality to Napoli as well. Bring some passion, bring some pride to the badge. One thing this Napoli team has missed this season is pride. They haven't had pride for that badge. They kind of forgot the fact that you're not really playing for yourself, man. When you play for Napoli, it's about the club. The fans of Napoli are such passionate, dedicated fans, and hopefully Gattuso can instill that back in, and that could hopefully jumpstart Napoli's performance. Napoli do have Arkadiusz Milik back in full form. He had a great game against Ghent, scoring a hat-trick. It'll be interesting to see what Gattuso does, but we will see him firsthand. Napoli will face off against Parma this weekend. It will be a Saturday match, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. All right, let's look to the next 8 games that we have on Wednesday for Champions League play, and some big matches as well to determine who will move on to the next round. We have Shakhtar Donetsk versus Atalanta, and I'm going to keep my eye on that match, because for Atalanta, if they win and Zagreb draw or lose, they will move on to the next round. And we all know we're rooting for Atalanta to do that. The cardiac boys from Bergamo, let's do this. Get this done. All the Atalanta fans will keep their eye on the Manchester City Dinamo Zagreb match. That will be a big match as well. To kickstart the 3 o'clock games, you got Club Brugge facing off against Real Madrid. Real Madrid have everything locked up, so we'll see what goes on there. Atletico Madrid will face off against Lokomotiv Moscow. Atletico Madrid need a victory. If nothing less than a victory. If they don't win against Moscow, they will be eliminated, and Bayer Leverkusen will move on to the next round. So you got to win for Atletico Madrid. They haven't been able to find their form. They haven't been able to find their attack thus far this season. So it's going to be a big game against Moscow. Bayer Leverkusen will face off against Juventus. Juventus have this locked up, so we'll see what happens here. But I mean, for once, I'm rooting for Juve to at least draw here, at least. PSG versus Galatasaray. I think PSG is going to win, despite them already locking up this group. Galatasaray, it's unfortunate with the Falcao injury, but not much talent there for Galatasaray. Olympiacos versus Red Star Belgrade. Battle for Europa League spot. And then last but not least, it's going to be a good matchup. You got probably the matchup of Wednesday. Bayern Munich facing off against Tottenham Hotspur. For Jose Mourinho, it's again still trying to figure out what works best for this team, but I still think it's going to be an exciting match there. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today on this beautiful Wednesday, for beautiful Wednesday. But guys, thank you so much for tuning into my daily cap. If you want to talk about anything we talked about today, you want to talk about the Sixers beating the Nuggets, Are you upset with the performances of JoJo and Ben Simmons? Let me know in the comments below. You want to talk about the Eagles' wide receiver position right now? It's not looking so good. Let me know in the comments below. You want to talk about the Phillies and the move with Didi Gregorius and possible moves that could happen with the Phillies? Let me know in the comments below. You want to talk Champions League, anything Champions League, what already happened, what's about to happen? Let me know in the comments below. If you're a Napoli fan or a Carlo Ancelotti fan, you want to talk about that news, let me know in the comments below. Guys, if you are a fan of what you saw, definitely help me grow this channel here in the Philadelphia landscape. Help me out by liking this video, subscribing to this channel, hitting the bell button for notifications, as well as sharing this video and this channel. But guys, if you also want to follow me on other platforms of social media, definitely do so. Follow me on Twitter at Parcero Philly. And you can also follow me on Instagram at @L_Parcero_Philly. And until next time, mi gente, I'm a Parcero Philly, and this was my Daily Cap.